Alright, welcome to Not a Drama for a different style of video. This time a little bit more kind of like streaming tutorial. I'm going to show you how to achieve very good custom transitions in DaVinci Resolve, which is the application that I use to edit all my YouTube videos. So without any further ado, just jumping straight on into the effects, and then maybe I can talk to you a little bit more later on about DaVinci Resolve. But there you go. Here is what we want to try to achieve. Let me put my headphones and play the clip. So there it is. Have you seen the transition actually happening in the middle of the clip? So here we have the floating RAM box going around, and then we have my logo coming up. There you go, NTD, Not a Drama. Actually, this is my new logo. Maybe I should have done something better to introduce it, but there you go. And then the logo is actually zooming out, and the new clip is coming in, right? And if you actually listen to it, you will also hear a noise coming in and out with the transition. So how I did that, how the magic happened. So here it is, the timeline, and if we play it in the timeline, we see again the transition. If we analyze the transition a little further, we see that we have the clip with the logo here on the video 2 track, and then we have the 2 different clips in the video 1 track, and they are smoothly transitioning from one to the other because we have the logo with its own transition here, that in this case is a blur dissolve, right? So we have the blur dissolve on the logo, which means that the logo is blurred and coming in dissolving, and then is keep going, and here we have a transition between the 2 clips, which is deep to color dissolve in this case. So you see the 2 clips are transitioning now at the moment inside the logo, right? And then what happened with the logo is actually quickly zooming out, and by zooming out or zooming in, depending on how you see it, it's revealing the clip underneath. So this creates a very cool effect. And what about the sounds? Well, we have our soundtrack here, but then you hear the 2 happening timing with the transition, and these are the sound. So if you mute the soundtrack, so we can only concentrate on the sounds. Yeah, there you go again. There you go. So these sounds actually, where they come from? Well, actually these are the golf swing practice, and it's sound effects that you can find for free on YouTube. So you need to be sometimes a little bit creative with transition sounds. This is actually someone playing golf, not exactly a transition, but well, it works well. I would like maybe to have something more like sci-fi sound, but I couldn't find anything yet in YouTube that I like, so those were the ones that I think I'm going to use for the time being. So let me recreate this in a new timeline, right? So this is the reference timeline, and let's recreate this step by step so you can see exactly how I done it. Okay, so let's create a new timeline, and let's call it tutorial. Right, so we have our new timeline, which is empty, and let's drag then the first clip with the floating RAM, and let's add the second clip with the panning camera from the keyboard to the RAM box. Okay, so what we want to do, we want to have some kind of transition happening here, and I use, for example, let's use the deep to color, which was the one that I wanted to use. Now I cannot drag and drop it between the clips. Why? Because there are not enough frames, right? So let's just see this clip, nothing is happening for a while before the panning start to happen, right? So we can actually move the clip a little bit out so that we recover a few frames. And here as well, we don't need a whole clip, so let's just cut it here. Maybe reduce it a little bit here. Yeah, so now we have some spare frames in the two clips. Let's move them at the beginning of the timeline, and there you go. So now we should be able to put a transition in between the two. There you go, it actually works because now we have frames, and this is how it looks like. So there is the music that is coming actually from when I was recording the track, so we don't need these soundtracks, so remove that, and we link the clips, we unlink them, so then we can select these, press delete, and get rid of those. Okay, so now we have our clean clips and we have the transition, which is not bad, but we want to make it a little bit more cool. So how you do that? So I created this file, which, as you can see, is a super simple file that I did in Photoshop, but you can use really any basic graphic application to come up with just, you know, a black background, pure black background, and pure white logo. So what happened with this? It means that this JPEG image, it can actually act as a mask, right? So if you don't know what a mask is, search in YouTube what is a mask and get on with it. This is not going to cover that, but if you know what is a mask, simply means that you can actually tell the application to consider this as an alpha channel. We can do this by changing the composite mode on the video track. So I added the JPEG image, right, just a black and white image. It will work with any black and white image. You select the track and we check the composite mode. If you do to add, the black will be the alpha, will be the transparent one, and the white will be the solid. But I actually want to do the opposite. So guess what is the opposite of add? Is subtract. So if we do subtract, is actually doing the opposite, right? But still we have the logo coming in. Actually we want the logo being transparent, so that will be darken, right? So when we darken, what happens is that the white will become fully transparent, right? So now we have our logo coming in, the transition happening, right? And then we transition from one clip to the other, right? Now how this will look like? Well, pretty bad, right? It's not as cool as we saw it before. So what I did exactly to achieve what you saw. So what basically I did is we need to ensure that the logo is coming in a nice way, and I use the blur dissolve transition. So just drop the blur dissolve transition there, and the logo will blur in, right? Now you can choose any one you want, right? So let's say we do X wipe, right? So it will X wipe in, right? And then there will be the two clips underneath transition with each other. So let's leave the X wipe. I actually like it. So we have the X wipe, and then we need to zoom the logo in. So if we zoom it in, basically whatever is here in the middle of the T will become bigger and bigger and reveal the whole clip underneath. So I want to start my zoom when the transition between the two clips is actually happening, right? So I put my playhead just in between the two clips, and then I'm going to select the clip and then going to create a keyframe for the zoom, right? So now I have a keyframe for the zoom. I can move on the last frame. Okay, now I'm in the last frame, and I simply have to click and drag to zoom, and then zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. Ooh. Okay, so what is going to happen now? Let's review it. Okay, transition, and it's disappearing. Okay, so very nice. Now you can make the zooming a little bit more interesting by making it a dynamic zoom right here, and instead of linear you do ease in and out. This will give also that kind of like bouncing, and it's very nicely executing the zoom in a more pleasant way, right? So, and there you go. So what is cool about this is that you can actually use the same image, but then you can change the type of transition. So here for example, we use an X wipe, but how it going to look like if you use, for example, a radial wipe? Okay, so you see a different type of effect. You may like it or not. And then also here, the actual transition between the two clips, right? Now we have a deep to color. We can change this to, for example, a clock wipe, right? And then you see the clips inside is doing a clock wipe inside the logo, right? How that's going to look like. Yeah. And like this, right? You may like it or not. No, I'm just testing it. But the thing is, with just a simple black and white image and some zooming apply with keyframes, or you can also like pan it or move it around, but you can do very cool things without have to do anything that is so incredibly complicated. Now, what about sounds? So we had our music there, so we drop the music in. Let's cut the part that we don't need and trash it out. So let's see with the music. And there you go. Maybe we want to do this one a little bit faster, so you can reduce it like this, but then you will notice that the zoom at the end is not fully in, because basically it's cutting where the zoom was happening. So we go again on the last frame, we click on this one, and then we just keep zooming in, so we know that there will be completely gone. Yeah, so much faster, looks better. And what about the sound? So as I told you, for the actual transition sound effect, I just simply used the golf swing practice. So let's hear the clip. So there are 3 different sounds for the swing. I just dropped that in an audio channel, and I aligned the sound wave here slightly before the logo appears, so it's going to be like this. But maybe you want, now with this kind of transition, the radial wipe actually doesn't work the sound. So let's go back to the blur dissolve, which I can never find from here. Sorry. So we have the blur dissolve here. There you go. So this sounds a little bit better with that. Now it's a little bit too slow compared to the sound, so let's reduce it. And maybe we want to make the sound not happening so early. Better. Yeah. And the second one is almost right as well, but basically what we are going to do, we are going to zoom in here so that we can cut our golf swing. Here we don't need all this silence, we don't need what's happening after, but we need the other swing side here and here, and we cut this and we remove this. So what we did is we cut out the 2 different sounds, and then let's watch it again. Okay, maybe we want to have this sound when the logo start to move a little bit out, so we can put it somewhere right here, let's say. Yeah, I said that was more or less working better. So as you can see, we recreated exactly what I showed you before, more or less, and it's very simple. You just need a black and white image. You change the composite mode to darken, or will be lighten if you have the inverted color, but if you go with the white and the black and the white logo, darken will put things inside the logo, inside the white. You drop the logo in on top of the transition that you put between the 2 clips, and basically you will see the transition between the 2 clips happening inside the logo. And then we actually animated the logo with the keyframes. So we created a keyframe on the dead center, and then we move to the last frame and we zoom all the way in so that the logo is basically zooming in and disappearing by itself. And then the last bit to remember is to create transition to introduce the logo in the timeline. So in this case, blur dissolve, and there it is. So I hope you find this useful, and that will help to increase maybe the quality of your videos. And talking of Resolve, I'm doing this in DaVinci Resolve, but I believe you will be able to do this more or less in any type of video editing software. The concepts are actually going to be applicable to any software you use. I like DaVinci Resolve because it's free. The version I'm using is completely free. There's not so many plugins and fancy things, but as you can see, you can add your own fancy things with just very simple resources, few black and white images, big logos, or maybe crazy shapes, and you can have your own transition by then animating the JPEG image. So I hope you enjoyed this, and thumbs up if you like this type of videos on my channel. Also feel free to subscribe. I have just passed 130 subscribers, long way to arrive to 1,000 for the new monetizations of YouTube. So if you can support the channel by subscribing, I will highly appreciate it. So hope you enjoyed this video, and see you in the next one.